Should you or should you not counter that spell? Should you remove that creature on the board? Welcome to MTG Tuesday Tips and Tricks. And those are questions you ask yourself a lot of times, right? But you know what the most important thing is knowing the right time. And in CDH, timing is everything. And today I want to talk a little more about CDH. So we can also discuss this outside of CDH of when to use your removal, when to use your counter spells, what time should you use this? Because sometimes people just go and they blast it real fast, real quick. And this goes across the board to everything. Sometimes you got to hold on to that removal. Now, if there's a removal that removes only specific types of things, like an artifact, or it does -2/-2, and you see your opportunity, yes, take it. Because a lot of times there's not a chance to use that later on in the game of bigger creatures or whatever. But in CDH, a lot of times they're counter spells. There are a few removal spells that people use, but when should you use them? What should you use them on? I've seen people waste counter spells on keeping Kinnan off the board when Kinnan had no mana rocks. I've seen people waste the counter spells or removal spells on a commander when there wasn't really, the commander was out, but it wasn't going to win the game. You got to be careful about when and where to use your counter spells and when and where to use your removal, because sometimes you waste it and then it was kind of pointless and then the other opponent wins. Sometimes you want to go out and start using your counters, and the next thing you set up for someone else. When this happens all the time in CDH, where people basically get into a wizard battle, and it does happen. Look, there are times when you've got to get into that battle. When it looks like they're about to win, that is the time. Like, they're going for a win con. They've dropped Underworld Breach. They're going for a Thassa's Demonic Consultation line. You definitely got to go for it there, because what else do you have? But also, you got to remember, like, sometimes just countering... Oh, they're playing a 1-mana Soul Ring, or they're playing a Mana Rock on turn 1. Do I really want to counter this? Sometimes using that 0-mana counter spell is fun, and it's funny to get them off, but get them off key. But here's the thing. Sometimes it messes you up, and then later you can't get a Demonic Consultation, or later you can't get that one thing you should stop. Think before you start removing everything on the board. Think about what it does and stuff like that. Like, if you've got a hand and you've got Orcish Spellmasters because you've got black and stuff like that, think about that. Be like, I'm not worried about the Esper Sentinel because I can use it to draw pings and get rid of it real quick. Things like that, you know. But there are cards you don't really want. Ristic Studies are things you realistically don't want to have hit the battlefield. Smothering Tithes, there are win cons. But my question is, what are your go-to thoughts? When should you counter something? When should you not? What commanders need to be countered and removed immediately? Kinnan is one of those commanders that a lot of times takes a lot and gets a lot of removal unnecessarily, because you've got to look at the board state. Yes, Kinnan can pull win out of the air, but do you really want to waste that removal when there's 1 Mana Rock or 1 Mana Dork, and there could be something worse, or that counter spell? Think about it. But let me know in the comments below, what are your best ways? When should you use counter spells? What should you use them for? Let us know in the comments below your best tips and tricks. And as always, stay tuned as we try to help you get better at CDH and Magic the Gathering as a whole. And as always, we'll see you next time.